Welcome again. In the last part of our conference, the panel titled Open Access to Scientific Literature and Around the World, where we want to exchange experiences with representatives of our, so to say, sister or brother projects from around the world. We are very happy that our invitations to the panel were accepted by the representatives of most renowned international platforms, Redalyc, HRČAK, AJOL, JStage, and SciELO. So we are hosting now Arianna, Becerril, García, Miroslav, Milinović, Susan Murray, Ritsuko Nakajima will be joining us shortly, and there is also Abel Packer, and we've discussed a bit before the panel and agreed to that each of the panelists would present their own platform, focusing mainly on such elements as the institution administering the platform, the position of the platform in any open access policies, the type of legal model used in relationship with publishers, and the manner of accepting publishers into the platform. We also asked for some comments or insight about how data is being put in the platform and how the data is curated in the whole process. And I hope that the panelists would also share their experiences about any accompanying activities in which they may be involved, like any trainings or guidance to publishers or anyone interested in open access. And there is also one more topic that we will probably address during the panel. It's the issue of metadata and statistics, the way the statistics gathered in the platform can be used in the not only in the process of running the platform itself, but also in some wider context, for example, for designing open access policy, or maybe for evaluating it. I think we can have some interesting discussion and insights here. We have 2 hours for presentations, and so this means that there should be some time for interaction and questions. And as before, I encourage anyone to post questions in the chat, and these can be answered whenever panelists want, but there should be also time at the end to come back to any question that hasn't been answered. Okay, without any further prolongation, I'd like to ask Susan Murray to talk about African Journals Online. Susan, please.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on the launch of your platform. And thank you for the invitation to be a part of this panel today. I'm grateful for being allowed to go first. I have some extremely urgent other matters requiring my attention, so I won't be part of the full panel. But on the last slide of this presentation, I have all my contact details. So if anybody should have any questions that aren't answered by the presentation, please do feel free to email me or get hold of me in some other way. Next slide, please. Can you hear me, Kristoff? I'm getting a message that my internet is unstable.
Yes, I can hear you. Everything works.
Okay.
I will
Wonderful.
slides for you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So AJOL, we refer to it as AJOL for short. It stands for African Journals Online. It's been since 2005 a non-profit company based in South Africa, but it was actually started by INASP in Oxford in the UK in 1998. So we were existing before open access had even really been thought about. Our work exists to disseminate research, peer-reviewed African published research more widely, and also to help improve the quality of the publishing standards of the partner journals that we work with. Next slide, please. So one of the reasons why AJOL was started is that a lot of the journal partners that we work with are not professionally published. They're standalone journals published by an academic or scholarly society or by a partnership of people from different universities or even from within the same university who don't necessarily have access within their countries or their institutions to the resources that are necessary to provide fast accessibility of a website and fast downloads of content. So we provide this for free to the journals that we work with. Our website is actually hosted in the United States and in an overseas server there, not within the African continent, for the same reason. It is still cheaper and faster international access to server content in the States. We in South Africa are not there yet. So for the meantime, we are maintaining our database and website overseas. We use Open Journal System software, amended version of that. So we work with a software developer and we provide free software upgrades and website maintenance to all of our journal partners. We also act as a free digital backup of journal content. In some instances, journals are not online anywhere else except through the AJOL platform. And in other cases, partners of ours have lost their own back file because the server has become faulty or whatever, and they've come to us and we have reinstated their full back issues to them digitally. So we add to the sustainability of the accessibility of the content as well. We provide really significant global online visibility, AJOL, primarily because we have been existing for so long and librarians have become very familiar with us from academic libraries all over the world. We are frequently visited. And so rather than just individual titles by themselves, a grouping, a platform like this gives, particularly one with such longevity, gives really good visibility to each of the journals partnering together. We collect free usage statistics on articles that are downloaded and abstracts that are read via our platform, and we give those back to the originating journals. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. We have also come up with an agreement with Crossref many years ago to have some discounted digital object identifiers for low-income countries and low middle-income countries, and we absorb that cost on behalf of the journals that we host. The vast majority of the journals that we work with are they either operate primarily off volunteerism or a really small amount of in-kind support, and in some cases a small amount of donor support. So they can't afford things like the membership fees and the digital object identifier logging fees. So we absorb that cost for them. We have developed from various major other databases and even for-profit instances of indices. We've developed kind of publishing standards, and we provide that information to all of the journal partners that we work with. We have, over the years, held regional training workshops in various different countries throughout the African continent, where we bring journals from neighboring countries together into one central hub. And we work for 4 days very intensively on best practices discussions on scholarly publishing from within the African continent, as well as training the journals in how to upload their own metadata and content to the AJOL platform using OJS. And each of the journals that come to those invitation-only workshops works on an implementation plan to improve the visibility of their journal through their own websites if they have them, and also to improve the quality of publishing standards. And a lot of those, because they're not professionally published titles, a lot of the standards are actually not necessarily known to the people who are running the journal. So there's a lot of intensive learning in those workshops. We have, obviously, because of COVID, now had to shift to an online system, and in partnership with INASP, have contributed to an INASP online journal quality workshop. And we also partner with an organization in Kenya called TCC, and we provide and will continue to provide online workshops of the same kind for our journal partners. Once journals have been trained, or if they're already familiar with online software to publish journals, we also allow those journals to use AJOL for their full online workflow management of their journal publication. Not many journals have taken us up on that. There are only a handful of journals that are running their full workflow, everything online through our platform. But it is free, and we do provide the free software support. So that is something that we can look into potentially charging for in future when I talk about the financial sustainability. We do provide continuous email support and best practice advice to all of our partner journals as well. Next slide, please. So there was a bit of a gap in AJOL's funding. So we've remained fairly static over the last couple of years in the number of journals that we partner with. We're up to 527 journals from 34 African countries. We include all research areas, all languages. 67% of the full text is open access. Because AJOL started before open access existed, and because a lot of the journals follow a path of print only to online for the first time through African Journals Online as a subscription model, as a legacy of print. And then as part of the kind of awareness raising that we provide, move to often open access online through AJOL, and then establish their own websites. So we do allow all publishing models on African Journals Online, and not just open access, because we have seen that this the free services that we provide, or rather the services that we absorb the costs for, allow journals to move all the way through from hard copy only to open access. We have an additional 400 odd journals who've applied to join AJOL. We don't advertise, we don't proactively go out and seek titles and ask them to apply. This hasn't been like the Google search engine was in the beginning. It's entirely word of mouth. Journals realize that there are significant advantages about being accepted to AJOL, that it is an element of showing that they are attaining certain publishing practices and standards by being included on AJOL. So there's definitely a huge demand for us. All of the journals that are on the site go through quite a strict review process. This is what I've mentioned before, the Journal Publishing Practices and Standards Framework. There's a summary of that at the website address that you see there, www.journalquality.info. It's not the full assessment questionnaire, which is massive and involves a lot of real-world background checking. And then on the basis of that assessment, information is provided to each individual journal about what areas they need to work on next in order to progress and achieve higher standards of publishing practices. We do not assess the content of the research. That is up to the journal's quality control and peer review system. We assess the journal's quality control and peer review system, rather. So last year, there were nearly 19 million full text downloads from all over the world through the AJOL website. Next slide, please. So regarding legal standing and how AJOL is financed, we're our own legal entity. We're a South African non-profit company. To date, we've been funded by different overseas donor organizations, mostly from Europe, some from the States. At the moment, we are funded by the Swedish International Development Agency for a final grant. Because of, I guess, all of the challenges that are facing and all of the many demands of the few donors that actually work in higher education research dissemination and understand why it's necessary for development. There's a very definite limit on the funding that is available for nonprofit agencies in the sector. And there's, as a result, significant pressure for us to move to a different means of recovering our costs. This is actually a very difficult situation to be in. We're between a rock and a hard place. We absorb the costs on behalf of our primary beneficiaries, so to speak, of the standalone journals that we work with primarily, precisely because they can't afford to pay for them and they can't manage to pull them together in isolation. That said, though, we are also running out of overseas donor funding support, and there is no funding that seems to be available from African governments, which is ideally where we should get our finance from, because we are serving a public good need or public service within the African continent. So we're working on developing different models of income generation, but it's very tough. It's very difficult to try and find those sorts of sustainable finances that are not dependent on charging for hosting of the journals. Next slide, please. Where we get our metadata, the journals, as part of, we have a standard agreement that we sign, and the journals who are accepted to our basic inclusion criteria or higher, accepted to join the AJOL platform after the JPPS assessment process. We sign a standard agreement with them, and if they are not going to load their own content, they agree to supply AJOL with full text and metadata so that we can upload their content on their behalf. Some of the journals are already adding their own content to the site, which is fantastic, because whenever a journal does that, it means that it's not an AJOL staff member who has to do that for that particular journal. We're a very, very small organization. At the moment, we are full-time staff. We're about to hire a 5th and a 6th. And then we have some temps that we work with, a part-time finance person, and a part-time software developer. So we're a really, really small entity. We are not officially part of any country or regional official open access policy. There are 54 countries within Africa, or 56, depending on your criteria, because of contested state. And they're all at various different areas and different degrees of working towards open access policies. Some not at all, some are quite far along the way, like South Africa, Ethiopia, Kenya, so on, Rwanda. But we're not, we don't, we're a service provider rather than a kind of a dictator. We facilitate access to information rather than imposing anything on anyone. We do, however, encourage open access precisely because our mandate is to disseminate content to as many researchers as need access to it. It's really important for development in the African continent to showcase research done on African challenges and African problems. And so we do encourage open access precisely because it reaches more people, and we share each journal's usage stats with them. It's very evident to us from the statistics that open access articles are used, if usage is indicated by downloads, far more than subscription-based content is, certainly from the AJOL website. Next slide, please. So I think I've hopefully covered all of the areas that were requested. If I haven't, please feel free to contact me. Our general email address is info@ajol.info. My email address is susan@ajol.info. We also have we've got 8 or 9,000 people following us on Facebook. Facebook is very big in Africa, and Twitter. So, Kristoff, thank you very much. I don't know if you would like to take over now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. And well, first of all, I want to say that this is really amazing and outstanding work that you are doing, as I understand, way over, understaffed and underfinanced. This is something that sounds quite disappointing. That the financing seems like a problem, very hard to overcome. Since you can't be with us much longer, I wanted to ask you, unless there are other questions, but I don't see any at the moment. Would you, from your experience and from your work with journals and also contacts with authors and publishers, probably, could you name what's the most important impact that AJOL has on the authors and their status? Is there any difference that you observe over the years?
Yeah, thanks. That's a really interesting question. One of the main reasons why AJOL actually formalized our assessment process of the journals and started putting JPPS, Journal Publishing Practices and Standards, rankings on the website for each journal was because of the author side requests for that. A lot of authors were using the fact that they had an article published in an AJOL partner journal in applications for jobs, in applications for promotions, in applications for tenure. So we were being used by the authors as a benchmark of quality of journals, as a proxy where the impact factor, for example, is other major indices aren't necessarily including quite niche African published journals. In the absence of those sorts of things, there was a need for some other mechanism for authors to be able to kind of showcase the validity and the importance of the fact that they get published in a particular journal. So it is an important driving factor behind why we formalized the JPPS system. That has been done in partnership with NASP and that framework is also being used by other journal online platforms on a country level in other parts of the developing world. Vietnam, for example, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, various other places. So we kind of work together occasionally between these different platforms, AJOL being the first and biggest of them, to kind of help one another in terms of disseminating that information and making it really applicable and useful to developing country journal publishing. I hope that's answered the question.
Yes, thank you. Well, there are lots of points that I would like to add, but we have to move on with our program. So I hope we can return to these at some other point. Now I'd like to give the floor to Arianna Becerril García and her presentation, please.
Thank you very much, Kristoff. Hi, Susan. Thank you. Congratulations, by the way, for the launching of the new platform. I really think this national platform really goes in the right direction to achieve sustainable scholarly communication. Just please, could you confirm if you can hear me well? Because I'm having a message here that I have a low internet connection.
We can hear you quite fine.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Okay. Well, and today I would like to present a project that maybe you are a little bit familiar with, or maybe not. The name is Redalyc. But before that, I would like to introduce the model or the approach that we are based on, because, we are based in Latin America, particularly in Mexico. We provide service to a whole range of countries, not only in Latin America, but in other regions as well. But I would like to reflect on how we can achieve open access, because there are various ways to achieve open access from, for example, the commercial world and from the academic world, which is the natural ecosystem or way that, for example, the Latin American region has been working for decades. So I would like to reflect on the discussion about open access, because we really believe that this is broader than access to the research output. It is about scholarly communications, how we can create and design the future of scholarly communications, the development of science. It's not exactly about a competition between or among different business models, commercial versus non-commercial, profit versus non-profit, diamond versus gold versus green. I think we have always to question and reflect on sustainability in long term, and also who is controlling, who has the ownership of the scientific knowledge worldwide, who is being impacted because of this ownership, who is being excluded because of this control or ownership, whose interests are being benefited by the open access models, the research community interests, or maybe a private interest, the public good. The discussion is not about impact factor and metrics. It should be about organic visibility, because we are living in this era of technologies, information technologies that can really make the difference in achieving organic visibility, knowledge linking, and something like that. The artificial pursuit of inclusion and diversity, we should think and talk about the systematic participation in science by different countries, by different regions, and not patronizing strategies that we see every time from the global south, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, just to enable a global conversation. This is the idea, how we can create different nodes in a graph to really connect knowledge and to really enable conversation among countries and among different researchers that really benefits the development, the rapid development of science. So, well, with these the ideas, I would like you to remind that we are, well, 17 years after the Budapest Open Access Initiative, and now we are seeing international landscape where we are seeing increasing control of the knowledge production, despite the fact we have different open access initiatives. We can see that this knowledge production circuit is owned by different commercial publishers. We are seeing restrictions on the rise, restrictions on where, when, or how to deposit articles, for example, in institutional repositories. We are also seeing, or in the middle of a publishing transition to digital technologies that is both slow and disappointing, because we can achieve more with the current technologies, and sometimes we are not benefiting or we are not leveraging these technologies as we can do now. And we are also living in the middle of a damaging research assessment system, the industry of prestige, that is mostly based on impact factor and similar proprietary metrics, where the great majority of the best ranked publications are published by commercial corporations, by the way, and with a concerning lack of visibility of publications published from the non-commercial sector, especially, for example, from the Global South, from Latin America, which is not really present in the so-called mainstream databases, since, they are not visible on there, because this is very, let's say, intelligent circuit where editorial publishers are in many times judge and juries in the same game, right? Okay, so and now we are also witnessing a flip from pay to read to pay to publish model, the APC model, APC-based model, where once again less resource researchers are excluded. Countries, academic institutions, and the research community do not have any control beyond commercial agreements, especially because the ownership of the article is the majority of the times in the side of commercial publishers. So a new exclusionary landscape is emerging. I really believe that we are repeating the historical errors that caused the crisis on subscription to journals, and now we are repeating the history, but now with the exclusion from the side of the author. So we are just seeing the last year the point of no return in an emerging inflationary crisis, now relying on author churches. For example, the announcement that Springer Nature is starting to charge authors around $12,000, which is the half year of the salary of a well-positioned researcher. For example, here in Mexico, it's impossible to publish there. So we really believe that the debate on open access is a debate about the future of academia. So we should be very careful on which models we are implementing in our platform, who is being benefited from them and who is being excluded, if we really want to achieve equity and sustainability in the long term. Just to summarize these background ideas, we see, well, in general terms, two approaches. So one, science as a commodity, where which is driven by impact factor-based research assessment, which is now being arranged with transformative agreements, which is APC-based, which is empowered with university rankings that take universities into a competition for impact factor and other proprietary positions in the landscape, owned mainly by commercial companies. And we see other, which is designs as a global public good, which is not necessarily impact factor based, which is academic owned, which is APC free, of course, natively open access, which can be technologically leveraged, and it also allows multilingualism in a natural way. So I wonder here which approach will structurally enable equity, bibliodiversity, immediate open access, not pay to read, not pay to publish, the control by the academic community, and this is very important to shape the future and to make decisions on the future of scholarly communications, and which is sustainable in terms of funds in the long term. So this is why Redalyc has been strengthening this model based on this philosophy. This is a project that started in 2003. Now it's an infrastructure that supports academia-owned technology by providing technology and sharing knowledge that contributes to the sustainability of non-commercial open access. We are based in, these 5 axes of our model are very important. So we work with academia-owned journals. We provide immediate open access. This is a not-for-profit initiative. There is an output or a result of a research group. The research group I am member of in the Autonomous University of the State of Mexico. We work only for journals that don't charge authors, so non-APC journals. And we also really rely on technology in order to strengthen journals, to improve the visibility, discoverability, and quality of the journals. So we are committed to Diamond Open Access. This is more or less our approach. We take a journal, we assess the journal in terms of quality. So we guarantee that all the journals that we index are peer-reviewed journals, and they meet a wide range of quality criteria and editorial criteria. And then we host the journal content in our platform. And then we provide different services, not only for journals, but also for their publisher institutions and for end users, readers that can access to the full text in the platform. So we provide services in terms of quality site certification that is also being recognized by different countries. So the index in Redalyc is a badge, a quality badge for the journals that is considered in different journal evaluation systems. And it is a quality badge also for authors that are looking for journals to publish in. So we provide this quality certification process, training, and also different reports, feedback reports, so the journals can assess the quality during the time. And this is a very important task for us, to keep the quality or to raise the quality of different journals. We also provide journal production tools based on XML. We provide services in terms of interoperability, discoverability. We also generate metrics and statistics, not only for journals, but also for countries, to assess the performance of their researchers, their disciplines, their institutions. And we also provide a system that can help journals to produce the electronic version of the journal without cost. All of these services are free of cost for the journals, for the publishers, for everybody, in fact, for end users. We have a sustainability model that is based on grants, research grants. We are a research group, so we always work in collaboration with different academic institutions in order to sustain this initiative. Today, this is our numbers. We have indexed more than 1,300 journals from 31 countries, more than 600 institutions, mainly universities, research centers, a little bit more than, almost a million full text articles are hosted in the platform in PDF, EPUB, HTML, and different viewers, mobile viewer and desktop viewer. Also, we are registering more than 12 million article downloads per month, and we have around 1.5 million authors from thousands of institutions worldwide, because we started working with Latin America, but we have contributions from authors from all over the world, of course. Now we are also indexing journals from other regions. We have been working with India, with Africa, and with some countries, Switzerland, from Europe, that are also that ask for to be indexed in Redalyc and also to access to the system that we provide. So we now are working with more countries. This is generally our architecture. We provide different services in terms of quality, visibility, metrics, as I told you before. The main service is the index of consolidated journals in Redalyc that we follow a very, very precise and rigorous process of evaluation of journals. We also have an external advisory board that verifies the quality of the journals along with this, the result of this evaluation process. So once the journal is indexed in Redalyc, the journal can access to this layer of the architecture. There is a set of services for editorial workflow. So the journal can access to these tools and then have this XML, and I have it in here. The journal can implement this journal production workflow, which is based mainly or starts with the XML, which is different from the traditional production workflow, which starts with the InDesign formation and the generation of PDF or HTML. With this journal production workflow, we start with the XML, and then automatically the system provides PDF, an HTML, and EPUB file versions with just one click. And then also you have your XML judge version of the journal. And also, if you want, you can have access to the printed on-demand version of the journal. So you can use these files that are heavier and are richer in order to produce the printed version of the journal if you want, right? And then you can connect all this output from the OJS that is installed mainly in the publisher institutions, in the universities worldwide. So they can take this work into their OJS installation to upload their materials in their own websites. So this is a workflow that we have tested and really saves time, really saves costs. And we are providing this obviously for free in order to prevent journals to start adopting commercial models that like the one or like the APC, for example. So we are providing this in order to help journals to make more sustainable. This is, for example, just a screenshot of our system. It's called Redalyc. They can tag different, every element in the article. For example, mathematical expressions, obviously the text, the graph, and in a very granular level. So you can have this information in XML. So this allows us to have, of course, a published version of the paper that can really be replicable because we put the data in raw formats. And we also put available the graphics and the tables and everything that is attached to the article. We can have automatically, as I said before, the interactive article reader, the mobile article reader, which is designed to be indexed properly by search engines, by different libraries. The public catalogs of libraries can index this content in order to provide this service for the community, the academic community in their institutions. We provide an automatic output of the PDF, EPUB, HTML. And also we have this layer of full text retrieval, where you can see, if you go to redalyc.org, you can see how to retrieve information by author, by disciplines, by universities, by topics, by countries, and by different levels of information retrieval. And also we have this layer of interoperability and visibility to work with, as I said before, with search engines, with OPACs, with repositories as well. We have this service to provide this metadata at institutional level to populate institutional repositories, so we can take this information back to the community that produced this knowledge by interacting with institutional repositories and journals. We also provide metrics. We have a very well-established methodology of metrics. We provide also data normalization in terms of also institutional data and other data that allow us to publish journal metrics also by institutions, and metrics by country on the internationalization of their scientific output and other things. And finally, we provide linked open data services. We have been working with different institutions to publish curated, not curated, but automatic curated content in terms of thematic ontologies that automatically group the content according to a topic. We have now published a semantic collection on epidemic and COVID-19 knowledge base, on ancestral and indigenous knowledge, and also on gender studies that is recently being published. We have been working also with the Association of Amelica, that is an association led by UNESCO, Redalyc, and Claxo, which in collaboration with other universities and other research centers and institutions, we are working in terms of preserving this non-commercial ecosystem, not only in Redalyc, but also in the region and inside the universities that are investing in this non-commercial. So the potential of this model, we believe that we can really and naturally achieve open data, linked data. We can improve knowledge discovery. We can achieve ubiquity with the current technologies, with semantic web, with artificial intelligence. So really leverage technology for a participatory and inclusive science ecosystem beyond legacy publishers and commercial strategies. We believe that we can achieve organic visibility, discoverability, and impact of science if we can connect every single piece of information into this graph. So I see this platform and other platforms like the one you are launching today as these nodes of a GN graph that really can work together to connect and to benefit researchers and the society in general, because we are working, let's say, with principles and with a philosophy of not excluding, for example, countries that are not in the possibility of pay to access the knowledge. So we really want to pursue to compose a structure that expresses the inherent knowledge and to be linked into a wider knowledge cloud that can connect universities, libraries, platforms, repositories, health institutions, because technologies allow us to do that now. So just some ideas to as a takeaway. So this is an approach of science as a global public good. Both Redalyc and America have developed and implemented an infrastructure to sustain non-profit academia and scholarly publishing now for more than 1,000 journals, and we are expanding to index and to provide these services and these benefits to any journal worldwide that meet the quality criteria, of course, but they want to keep their costs low with international standards and to be, for example, compliant Planet and some other initiatives that require this kind of, for example, technologies that Redalyc is providing. So it saves significant costs in journal production in favor of the nonprofit publishing sustainability, allows to keep journal publishing in hands of the academic nonprofit sector, allows native open access and open data, prevents journals from charging APCs, really enables bibliodiversity. It includes different software solutions that automates that typesetting and journal output file generation. As I said before, is linked open data compliant, and it is important to highlight that this approach could be replicated in other regions, or we are open to collaborate in terms of strengthening other publications or other regions. So please feel free to contact me if you want to discuss further about these topics, or maybe if you are interested in having access to the software or have a look to what we are doing in Latin America or from Latin America. So, well, thank you, Kristoff. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This really sounds very interesting, and I have noted down several things that I would like to ask, especially that, as far as I understand, your platform is also doing very much in the area of the publishing process itself, and thus adding to the diamond model, I think, a very necessary element that allows it to challenge this industry of prestige that you mentioned. However, we are getting a bit behind the schedule, so maybe if there is time, I will ask those questions at the end, and maybe there's also some questions from the audience later on. Now, I would like to ask Miroslav Milinović to give his presentation. Let me just switch to his slides.
Yeah, it looks like my slides. Thank you, Kristoff. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. First, of course, thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Miroslav Milinović. I will present Hamster, the national infrastructure for open access journals in Croatia. Name HRČAK comes from a Croatian shortcut of it, and I will put a light on it a little bit later. Disclaimer, I am not a librarian person, neither the editor or actually, SciELO is University Computing Center of University of Zagreb, so I'm a techie. So if this sounds like too technical, just raise your hand and let me know that I should stop talking about bits and bytes. Yeah, to continue. So about SciELO, just short that you understand where we are and who we are. We are the most important infrastructure institution in Croatia when it comes to higher education and research, running roughly 50 different services, from the network to the high-level information systems, to data centers and operations on 24 hours, 365 days a year. So we are something like a basic service for the, oops, where are my slides? Nothing. So more or less we are essential to the use of ICT in the higher education and research. Thank you, Kristoff. We also like to think about ourselves as the ICT Competence Center that provides training and support for all of the services we offer and above. Since the very beginning, we are proud of actively supporting open access declaration in Croatia and wide and open science these days. And with saying that, we have a whole range of services supporting OA and open science, and in particular those who support the research data lifecycle. And those are more or less related to rodents. Yeah, the name comes from a Croatian shortcuts. So there is a service which is determined to support researchers in the daily life in exchange and collaboration on a data. We call it Dormouse. In Croatian, it's Puh. There is another one which is actually infrastructure for institutional and thematic repository. That one is Beaver, in Croatian Dabar. And the last one, the one I'm going to comment and talk about right now, is the portal of scientific journals in Croatia, which is in Croatian language HRČAK. In Polish, I would presume you're going to call it chomik, which is actually a hamster. So whole zoo of the rodents. That is the way how we try to sell it. Sounds interesting. So, Portal of Croatian Scientific and Professional Journals was an initiative of Croatian Information and Documentation Society back in 2004. They came to SciELO with the idea of we need to develop a platform for the journals that they have that they could use to establish their digital presence. It could be a common platform that will actually allow them to act together. So in a small country, small journal will be more visible if they join forces and be at the same platform. More or less, that was the story behind it. We bought the story. Ministry of Science and Education decided to finance the initial project. And since then, we are running the system under their auspices. So the system is developed, maintained, and hosted by SciELO. Still works on our systems. The initial project took something like a year and a half, from 2004 to 2005. It was led by SciELO. Since the very beginning, we had interinstitutional team with people from librarian science, with researchers, with those who are editors or they do some jobs in the editorials for the journals, and it was, as I said, financed by the ministry. So we had two goals: encourage editors of Croatian scientific and professional journals to publish in open access. And be advised, that was 2005, not today. And the other was to develop common central platform that will enhance digital presence of a journal, so that will enable journal editors to publish as easy as possible and end users to browse and search the articles on the web. So we tried to, deal with two goals at the same time. First version we put in production in February 2006, and it was quite clear from the very beginning that training and support should be included. So whatever we developed was actually our own system, but it was supported with the training and support, and we still do that. Interoperability, which we are also very proud of, was there from the very beginning. So from the very beginning, our system was open, and it had the OAI PMH interface. So if you are there, you could crawl it. You could get the metadata, you could get the full text through that metadata, you could index it since the very beginning. And later on, pressed by the need of the journals, where editors actually said, okay, you have provided us visibility, but give us the back office part of the job. We've added the support for editorial process. For that, we use the ready-made open journal system, and we have quite a good experience with it. So in numbers today. In June, we had something over 400 journals. We actually checked their activities. So out of them, something close to 400 is really active. It means that they publish according to their announced schedule. Announced schedule means if you say you're going to have 4 issues per year, you should have 4 issues per year. It can't happen that you say I will have 4 issues and you publish only 1 in 2020 and now it's 21. We have over or close to 250,000 of open access articles, full text of course, and average in 2020 was roughly something over 63,000 visits per day. Out of that number, 10% plus actually uses open journal system. Some others use something else, or they use their own OJS, not our central installation, or even third platforms, which I'm not going to discuss due to the sake of the time. So this is the numbers that we have right now. We are steadily growing. The organization and governance, Kristoff asked to talk about it. So since the very beginning, it was quite clear that SciELO is responsible for the portal's design, functionality, and data security. We provide backup, we provide long-term archiving, we provide security, so nobody can change something without knowledge of the editorial board of the respective journal. But journal editors are solely responsible for the journal content and the accuracy of data. So whenever an author comes and say, hey, something's wrong on HRČAK, on Beaver, we say, yeah, but you should visit the journal editors and tell them to change that data. So in principle, we are not changing anything in the database, in the portal. It is up to the owners of the journals, of editors and publishers to change whatever is needed. We provide support. Since the very beginning, we have the policy, the portal rules. And they definitely include the clear criteria for journal enrollment. They are publicly available, sadly in Croatian only. Reason for that actually is that from the very beginning, we had the idea of having a Croatian portal, Croatian platform. This means that at this moment, the rule, one of the criteria is at least one of the publishers or editorial organizations should be from Croatia, should have their central point in Croatia, or you have to publish in Croatian language. So it is really a Croatian one. Otherwise, we could not put boundaries around the portal, and we thought that the boundaries are at this moment quite important. When we talk about the criteria, this criteria is actually not towards the quality of the content, it's towards the quality of the publishing process. Do you have a review process? Is it documented well? Do you have an impressum? I mean, not in a technical terms of PDF, but do you have a proper information for the authors and so on and so on? Just aligning with the good publishing practices these days. And we are actually evaluating these criteria. And to help us with that, because I said already, I'm a techie, we have only one librarian in the team, but we do have advisory board since beginning. And this advisory board currently has 9 members, journal editors, experts from research community, librarians, even one of the authors. So we have a set of experts who are willing to invest their time to advise us on policy, advise us on enrollment criteria, on development plans, and act as a proxy to communicate community needs towards us. So we are somehow, we living under the impression that we have a link with the community that uses HRČAK to make sure that we are not only following the open access and open science work in the Croatia, but also that we are somehow in relation with the community that uses our portal and meeting their needs and expectations. Our training activities and support actually are done through the series of webinars and workshops for targeted audience according to the needs that we collect over time. And we provide the email contact for editors. So if editors have a problem with using the platform, they just call and get it. And everything of that is free of service. Free service for all, journals and end users. So we ask for no money. Okay, ministry finances us. Sometimes they even finance the further development of HRČAK. But in principle, this service is for free. When it comes to interoperability, as I said, one of our main goals was to be visible. We are proud of being interoperable with the whole world, I would say. So since the very beginning, there was PMH, but we, after that, added KBART. We actually are compatible with the Directory of Open Access Journals, Highwire Press. Later on, we added open air compatibility, and when we are talking about the open air, it is open air guidelines for literature repository managers version 3. We are in Open Door, Oyster Base, WorldCat. Our system has been listed as the data source in open air since April 2015. And these two icons at the end, DABAR, as I said, is the platform for repositories. So there is also a link between these two platforms. I can comment on that later on. And actually, there is another animal in our information system ecosystem, in our zoo. It's called CRORIS. Actually, it's a Croatian Research and Information System. Actually, it's a cat, as you can guess from the icon. RIS in Croatian is lynx. So you know the bobcat in English. It's a current research information system for Croatia. So there is also a possibility. It's planned, actually not really in full operations, to connect the data from HRČAK, from journals, with the research information system that we run centrally for Croatia. So quite a set of interoperable things and systems. Further on, we actually added ORCID functionality in a very specific way, that once a journal editor adds the certain paper to a certain issue of his journal, then if he adds email address, then immediately or at certain point of time, an invitation to that email address is sent to the author to connect his paper, this paper, with his ORCID. This actually means that we eliminate any kind of copy and paste problems and actually ask the author, once his paper is published, to by himself connect, and we use ORCID API, so nobody is typing in the ORCID, to connect his work with his ORCID. At this moment, and this is of course because journals are international, these are not ORCIDs only from Croatian authors. At this moment, we have something close to 20,000 authors that are using their ORCIDs in HRČAK, and it's above 50,000 connections. So above 50,000 papers have some of the authors connected here. In average, you would say author has here 2.5 references, but yeah, it's bad to play that kind of statistics. Average is always problematic thing. One more thing that we have here is that we tied our system with a founder or a project information system. We use OpenAIR's database of projects and also internal Croatian one of the projects which are financed either by the Ministry of Science and Education or by a Croatian funding organization that funds scientific projects in our country. Furthermore, there was a question about the usage statistic. That is something that we already have from the very beginning. Of course, we continuously improved that. From the very beginning, we needed something to measure the success of our platform and the amount of the work done by the editors. And later on, we've added things like journals activity, number of visits and downloads, so that this moment is quite public. If you go to HRČAK and select one of the papers there, you will see how many times it has been downloaded, the PDF of it or whatever platform it is. We are putting quite a lot of effort into it. At some point of the time, ministry also used that platform in their evaluation and deciding on financing scientific journals. So it was quite important for them to be tidy, all in order, and to be visited as much as possible. In respect to that, I have to say that we are still working on improvement, but are quite fond of the fact that we can tell you right now publicly, you can check for yourself, for instance, how many articles or issues a journal has published, and they can also see their visibility or the number of visits by themselves, but also it is, some of that is public information. And they really check it out, and they really use it when they need to explain to their publishers or finances, hey, have a look, we are really visited. A bit more advanced formats. Yes, we provide the XML formats. We are into journal article tag suite standards, so YATS is something that we are following. Of course, for the sake of content mining, for the format migration, presentation, because once you present it in HTML, it's much nicer, and your issue or a paper looks much more appealing on the website. At this moment, only 33 journals are doing that. You see the numbers, they are not so high, but they are steadily rising. The problem here, of course, is that we can't help them all. And actually preparing of XMLs is still their own work. We don't have a tool that would kind of build the XML from there, whatever they have, PDF or whatever. So we still have there a place for improvements. Yeah. To conclude, what about the development? Our main goals at this moment are to improve the user interface or user experience. We have quite a lot of users, and our goal is to make the platform clean and easy to use for both for publishers, editors, and end users. Also, we need to enhance its interoperability and visibility together with making sure that maintenance and adding new functionalities is as easy as possible. It's relatively easy to build a new platform, but to keep it on a technical level, not to be behind the development of the tools and frameworks that you use in development, that is a challenge. So we are somehow addressing that issue quite a lot. Our latest result is totally re-implemented administrator's web interface, where we actually resolved some of the visual and logical issues our design had in 2005, of course, after 15 years. You could imagine that some things might be wrong. What we added lately was the possibility to link paper with research data. And here comes the dabber, because identifier or URL, actually we advise put the identifier somewhere in your repository, and here don't link the research data, just refer to it here, provide here identifier, DOI, for instance, URN-NBN. And of course, possibility of adding supplements to the paper, that is a bit different. We provided also interface which is compliant with accessibility standards. I don't know how that is pressing in your country, but in our country it became a a law, so we had to do something around it. And our short-term future plans are related to implementing public pages, and the question mark here stands for the support for conference proceedings. Since the very beginning, there was quite a controversy between the advisory board and us, and we changed the opinion. Everybody actually had the two possible ones, to support or not to support conference proceedings, as they are by definition not journals, but we have a lot of inquiries like, could you please support the conference proceedings? So at this moment, we decided to start the pilot based on use of the open monograph press system. And we'll see how the pilot will go, and then we'll see, would that be yet another new rodent, or there will be a hamster on steroids. And that was actually a 15 minutes short overview of our efforts. Thank you. And if you feel like you need some more information, here is HRČAK platform. A lot of that is in English, but again, some criteria and things that are related to policy sadly are in Croatian only. And for those who want to learn more, hrčak@srce.hr is the proper email address. And of course, I'm here until the end of this roundtable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I have some things that I would like to ask you, but just to be consistent with the schedule, now I'd like to give the floor to Ritsuko Nakajima, who will talk about the Japanese platform. And okay, so Ritsuko, you should now see your slides, and you can unmute yourself in the panel.
Thank you, Kristoff. Do you hear me?
Hello, yes, I can hear you, I can see you. So you can now start.
Thank you, yes. Hello, thank you for inviting me here today. I'm Ritsuko Nakajima from Japan Science and Technology Agency, which is also known as JST. I would like to join you in celebrating the launch of the new site of the Library of Science. I am happy to share our experience on JStage, a journal platform for Japanese land societies. I would like to begin by talking about the policy of open science in Japan. Open science has been promoted in accordance with global trends. The policy of science and technology is implemented based on the Science and Technology Basic Plan. Open access was stated in the first plan in 2011, and open science was appeared in the fifth in 2016. About that time, an expert group was organized at the Cabinet Office, and they have been issuing the guidelines and reports on data management policy, data repository, and research data infrastructure. And last April, the sixth plan was approved. Open science should be promoted in constructing a new research system and stated to improve the environment for management and the promotion of reliable research data. In line with this policy, research data, at least the metadata, which are created from research supported by public funds, will be aggregated on a national research data cloud. JST is a national research and development agency. under the Ministry of Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology. So we are promoting projects based on the Science, Technology, and Innovation Basic Plan. The budget is about €1 billion, and about 80% of the budget is spent on research funding. It also has a mission to collect, compile, and preserve domestic and foreign scientific and technological information, and provide and make sure information is available for public inspection. JST is one of the services that is being promoted for this mission. JST was launched in 1999. It enables Japanese learned societies to publish their journals online. The homepage of the service is shown here at the left-hand side. Now, JST hosts 3,262 titles with more than 5 million articles published by 1,855 learned societies. Last fiscal year, we got 455 million downloads. The number of articles has been increasing steadily, and still we accept 10 to 20 journals a month regularly. To join JST, a learned society applies to the JST, and we check the eligibility of its journal and operation system. The conditions are if they publish or plan to publish serials on science and technology, including the humanities and social sciences. The managing body of the publisher must be located in Japan. The primary purpose of publishing must not be for profit. The publisher must be able to produce data for publication. Here is the structure of the operation. In the box at the bottom, JST services are shown. JST provides the system. As for the basic functions such as metadata and full text upload or DOI registration, JST develops and operates the system with IT companies. As for optional functions, we use external systems. For the submission tracking system, we use Scholar Manuscript and Editorial Manager, and for plagiarism detection, we use Authenticate. We also provide knowledge on scholarly publication. We conduct a series of JST seminars and journal consultation program. JST covers the cost spent on those services. On the JST, learned societies publish journals. They manage an editorial board, receive submission, conduct peer review, and make XML, PDF data to publish and upload them to the JST. They are responsible for content. The societies cover the necessary cost. You may wonder why there are so many journals and societies. Some of the reasons are that they are diverse and small sized. The Science Council of Japan has a system to register societies on their list, and there are about 2,000 societies. Among 2,000 societies, the large-scale societies are limited in number, and half of them have less than 500 members. And half of the societies use JST. Here is the distribution of language and subject areas. 20% of 507 journals are English, and 36% are English-Japanese mixed journals, and 40% is pure Japanese journals. As for the subject areas, they are quite balanced. We have basic sciences, life, medical and health, engineering, interdisciplinary science, and humanities and social science. Recently, interdisciplinary and humanities and social science have been increasing. Actually, 86% of journals are freely accessible. However, the actual number of open access journals, which means journals clarify the license condition for reviews, is still low. So we need to do something to take measure. These are our observations about why they have not transferred to open access. Leader to societies don't have a good impression of journals. They're concerned that there are important journals with a long history to be regarded as open access journals with poor quality. They need to consider the close balance between the number of submissions and APC. And they have to take care of the benefit for society members. Many societies are operated by a membership system, and their printed journals are delivered to only members. When electronic journals began to be circulated, many societies decided to publish the online version free, while printed versions are still published for members. When the journal becomes a complete open access, they may lose a part of the members. Administrative work to change society's regulations and to make decisions on procedures of articles in past issues, etc., should be a burden for societies. So far, I have been talking about the current status of JStage, and from now on, I'm talking about topics that we are making an effort to now. We started a general consultation program in 2016. By working with a consultation company, we provide this service to societies that apply for. The program progresses following these steps. They get an assessment of the journal and get advice from experts. The purpose can be to improve quality, to get more submissions, or how to transform to open access, etc. After the program, some of the journals applied for DOAJ and they were accepted. We provide access logs to the societies that enables them to analyze the position of their journals. Unfortunately, the logs are delivered in a text format now, and we are planning to develop a dashboard service. We also provide a website to share information about open access, which are open access guide and Japanese translation of DOAJ documents. We have JStage seminar a few times a year. We invite experts from both inside and outside of Japan to be aware of the latest movements in scholarly communication, or this is also an opportunity to share experiences among learning societies. The seminar has an annual theme. For example, last year it was research data, and in 2019 it was responding to international trends such as research integrity and publication ethics and open access, including PLAN-S, CC-license, and DOAJ. JStage Data is our newest service. This is data repository launched in 2020, and it allows journals or authors to upload the data used in their articles on JStage. It is all open access, and the URI is registered to each dataset. The dataset is linked to the corresponding article. on JStage. So currently we have 6 journals with 197 datasets. This is the usage of the JStage data. We use the technology of picture, so this statistics can be shown automatically. The number is still small but increasing. The datasets are accessed globally from North America, Europe, China, and Japan. We think that this is will be a key service to promote open science with JStage. So that's all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I hope you will be able to stay with us a few more minutes for any questions. And now I'd like to ask for a presentation for our last panelist, Abel Packer. And as far as I remember, you wanted to share your screen for some additional features. And so we need to wait a moment.
Okay, here is it.
Okay, everything seems to work.
Okay, good morning here, probably good afternoon there. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this remarkable panel with Arianna, Ritsuko, Miroslav, and Susan that already left, and you, Kristoff, that did a tremendous effort to make this a reality. I will share with you our advances in making, transforming SciELO in open science program. So we have this construct, this concept of the program, which embodies all the development and operation of SciELO under principles, functions, and objectives. So we are now a kind of network of open science, web-based libraries of research communication. And we call that the SciELO network. The website is www.scielo.org. It is multilingual, English, Spanish, and Portuguese, which are also most of the contents we manage, we operate. And there is based on collections, library, the concept of virtual library in the web. So we have 18 collections of journals, open access journals, 17 collections operated at national levels, and one public health. Then we have 2 servers and repositories, one for SciELO data and the other is SciELO preprints server. And we also manage operating a collection of books. Just to show that Latin America produced 3.4% of all journals in Scopus. They are 11% of the open access and 6% of the output indexed in Scopus. Open access is about 90% of the journals indexed in Scopus from Latin America are open access, and also the output they publish. This is the same. Here is the distribution of open access journals in DOJ, Director of Open Access Journals, and we can see that Latin America is the second region with 20%. So Latin America is a region that pioneered open access and is still continue to be very representative. So SciELO network of libraries are journals, peer-reviewed journals, organized according XML JETs implemented by SciELO publishing schema. We also started with data repository in 2020 August using a Harvard Dataverse platform. And we have since April 2020, more than 1 year already, operating a SciELO preprints, which is very well using open preprint system from PKP. We also have the SciELO book platform, which is part of the director of the open access book trusted platforms. So let's see a brief description of these collections. So SciELO network started in 1997. We developed here the pilot project that developed what we call SciELO publishing model. And the solution has been adopted progressively by 16 other countries. And the number of journals grows also. We have now about 1,200 journals from 17 countries. And the number of docs that we publish within the SciELO operation is about 800,000. And with the retrospective uploading is 900,000 documents. Open access is a big repository. Here is the annual growth of journals and articles in quinquennials. I selected 2 quinquennials to show that in the last quinquennial, the number of articles grows less than 1%, and the journal about 2%, which means that the SciELO collection, SciELO network, already achieved the core collection of, let's say, quality journals according to the indexing criteria. It's a multilingual collection, basically English, Portuguese, and Spanish. I separated here Spanish and Latin America, where you can see that is more than 70% of the article in Spanish. But we have Brazil with a high production, about 40% of the entire network, with a publishing of 73% in English and 47% in Portuguese, and a big effort to publish about 22% simultaneously in English and Portuguese, which is a big effort to increase visibility. So overall, we have 44% English, 22% Portuguese, 43% Spanish. In terms of major thematic areas, we have about 40% of life sciences. 13% of, these are docs, not journal, 13% of the physical science, technological and multidisciplinary, and social science, humanities are, let's say, most of the articles. But that vary country by country. You know? If we take, for example, Brazil, is mainly life science. If we take Mexico, it's more social and humanities. And so it all depends on the way SciELO developed in each country. The SciELO works in each country as a kind of a framework for journal public policy. So it contributes to national agencies to implement their policy to support the journals. National operation with funding also. In general, funding of SciELO journals and pen collections are a mix of public funders, institutional funders, or society that publishes journal, and progressively there is also the use of the APC due to difficulties many journals are facing to survive. Priorities in terms of editorial policies are also defined at the national level. The objective is journal production, improve capacities in the infrastructure, and of course, contribute to increase research visibility and impact. INSEE criteria is relatively, let's say, very strict, with 12 to 30% of the nationally published journal included. All disciplines, multilingual, as I said before, 100% indexed, or almost 100% indexed by Google Scholar, Web of Science, all database, dimensions, and the other mega indices. More or less 80% in DOAJ, Cross-Ref, OpenAIRE. So let's go very fast to SciELO data, which use databases. We are just beginning. We have only 14 databases. As you might know, dataverse allows recursively that you develop different repositories that they call dataverses. So in our case, we provide or plan to provide one dataverse per journal. So we have only 14 journals now with repository and the data set. So it's very beginning. We are learning. It's very complex data management because of curation. We also are worried to have, let's say, improve the metadata and try to align it with fair principles, in terms of increase visibility. So the SciELO data objective functions as in those SciELO journals we are researching data repository, preserve research contents, easy research evaluation, reproduction, and replicability, contribute to increase research visibility and impact, improve return of research funding, because if you make data code, etc., they can be reused. Pilot operation for SciELO until March 2022. So from April 2022, we are expecting to have a regular operation. Curation, as I said, the idea is to move towards fair compliance. And the dataverse has been selected after evaluation of different solutions because it provides one repository for each journal and at the same time you can have one big repository of all repositories, and open source, and they have a very active community. Let me go very fast to SciELO preprints. SciELO preprints is implemented with the OPS PKP platform. As you all know, preprints are a manuscript, not evaluated by a journal, or in the case of the SciELO preprints, already evaluated but in process of the publication. Many SciELO journals, when they just approved a manuscript, they deposit it in the SciELO preprint, so they gain a lot of time, 3 months, 4 months, when they are doing the copy desk and the final review. So the advance accelerated the communication of the research. Here is an example. So you have the versions online with the abstract and the metadata, and the full text is in PDF. CC BY, which is the standard SciELO license. So the objectives in those SciELO network countries and journals with a trusted preprint server. Each preprint approved has DOI capability to have several versions, link between the preprint and the final article, version of record article. There is a strict quality control, not peer review, but quality control, up to 3 levels. First level, we look for the text to comply with SciELO publishing schema JET's main sections, which are title, authors, abstract, keywords, and you have also all the affiliation with ORC ID, needed to enter conflict of interest, ethics when approved by committee, credit, and so on. Type of article, if it's an explicit research article with authors with at least 3 articles indexed, they are approved automatically. Otherwise, they go to a moderation by specialists who evaluate if the manuscript is passable or likely to be accepted for peer review. It is approved to be uploaded. First step in the article flow of SciELO publishing module. So the SciELO publishing module now starts with preprint, and the idea is that somehow in the future, all the journals or most of the journals or part of the journals demand that their manuscript should be first deposited in a preprint. So the platform open preprint system from PKP is compatible with OGS, which makes a more easier adaptation and use and operation. We have a partnership with PKP to develop the preprint server, and again, open source, and has a big user community. SciELO Books, it was launched 9 years ago. We have a collection of academic or scholarly press, mainly university press. We already published 1,500 books. 900 is open access. 12,000 chapters. We do index by chapter, and we have a lot of downloads. Here's an example of how a book looks like. You have a metadata, basically, and you have here the download availability. All are structured in EPUB, so it can be read and published in the bookstores. Objective and goal, SciELO Network is an ebook platform, EPUB, dissemination via mainly Amazon, Google Books, Kobo, and the Discovery system like EBSCO and the others. It works as a scholarly press aggregator, initially mainly from Brazil, but progressively from other countries, mainly open access, but still we have academic press that still has business model, and we are working with this mix of book business model, but the idea is to reach a full open access in the future. As I said before, we are part of the recent launched Director of Open Access Books Network of Trusted Platforms. Advisory committee, as all SciELO collection has an advisory committee, be it data and preprints or books. And we have this concept of the SciELO publishing model, which has the traditional types of literature, plus recently we added a data article and also the reports from peer review, which is now able to be, let's say, research communication with DOI, etc. Of course, these advances are very not used yet, but we expect that they will be in the future. We are using all the persistent ID, DOI, org ID, institutional ID, funding ID, and so on, to improve quality control and interoperability. Let me be very fast in the publishing model. So the evolution, we have 3 cycles. The first one we define as building national collection of quality peer-reviewed journals, mainly to deal with transition from paper to digital online, adoption of open access, learning and the adoption of the best practices. From 2013, we moved to have centrality on online digital publication, which is the purpose of the SciELO to be a web-based library. So all our online manuscript processing, full text marked up according XML jets, continuous publication, so you don't need to wait for the number or edition. You publish it as soon as it is available. And from 2018, we start to align with open science practices via preprint, research data, peer review, openness options, and of course, always best practices and interoperability. So general objective of SciELO publishing model and SciELO program, advancement of research, infrastructure in terms of developing national capacity towards open science, specific objectives, improve journals quality, maximize visibility, usage, impact. Okay, so this is very similar or the same as the other platforms. Functions, indexing, storage, preservation, publication, dissemination. As I said before, web-centered virtual library, which is characterized by 2 basic web properties. One is disintermediation, which is a critical property, and virtuality. So these are the 2 main drivers of SciELO uses to improve web publishing. Lines of action, so we have this 18 collection, how we move all together in a decentralized way. So you have common lines of action, which are professionalization, which we define as the right way to do and to be competitive in terms of quality with the commercial publisher. That is what we are always looking for. Internationalization in terms of editorial committee, in terms of language, in terms of authorship, and sustainability, which is a critical issue today in Latin America, particularly in Brazil. Advisory committee is always present in each collection, representative of the context, national or thematic areas. Editorinships are in this committee and institution, and they do coordinate collection development. Advisory committee decide what remains and what enters in a collection. So the principle, our knowledge as a public good, is slightly different of what, very similar, but slightly different from what Arianna presented in terms of the dichotomy of science as a commodity and science as a public good. We work specifically with the availability of knowledge and treating knowledge as a public good. And of course, the science needed to be open to fully achieve this principle. And we have network operation, which is certainly the best way to develop capacity, to share experience, and mainly to manage asymmetries between thematic areas, between countries. It is typical from the web centralization. You have Google, you have Facebook, you have all these big operation. But the SciELO remains as a principle to work with network operation, because in the long term, we think it's more sustainable and democratic in terms of capacity. A standard state-of-the-art innovation, open science practice, these are part of the principle of quality control.
Sorry, Abel, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, but we are reaching the scheduled end of our panel, and okay. I'm wondering if there is any opportunity that we could stretch this time a bit to still gather maybe some questions and maybe try to answer them. Could you be so kind and stop at this moment, and maybe there is someone who wanted to ask anything on the chat.
Perfect. Okay, no problem. Just to see that we have two big challenges. One is fighting for a global flow of information system, and also improve international technical cooperation. That we think we need that. So thank you for that. I had no control of the time with me, so pardon for that.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure that we could answer any questions if there are any. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I see a question. In the chat. Sorry, but this Click meeting started to lag a bit. On my side. Okay, so there is one question to you, Abel. I'll put it on the, on the screen. Could you quickly address?
Okay. Yeah, this is a very good question. and the model foresee that each journal is responsible for the management of its data version, okay, of its repository. And the authors are responsible to deposit the data, which should be related to a manuscript or an article already, manuscript submitted or an article already approved. So the SciELO data is linked to journal articles. It's not a general purpose data repository.
Okay, thank you. There is another question, and I would like to shortly add to this question, because earlier in the previous panel, which was between Polish institutions and the administration, we've heard a lot about some concerns about the diamond model, and it's very much links in my mind as to especially what Arianna was saying about challenging this existing model, the industry of prestige, and which is actually in my opinion, a solution, that if we could somehow find a way to support the diamond model to allow it to address such concerns, that should be some way to move forward. And I'm curious to hear your opinion. Maybe to make the question more specific, what do you think about the concerns, the quality concerns that are sometimes expressed with regard to the diamond model?
Well, if I may, Kristoff. Well, I would say that there's a big, a myth regarding quality with diamond journals. It is not true. There are organizations and platforms like SciELO or Redalyc that certifies quality of diamond journals. But it's very, very important to say that in the case of, if we measure the quality as to be indexed in Web of Science or Scopus, this is something that is wrong, because this is not a synonym of quality. There are other databases that can certify quality. The thing is that non-commercial and diamond journals are not visible in that mainstream databases. So this is the thing, because those databases privilege more the commercial venues, the commercial publishing. So it is a matter of, as I said before, of control, but also to detach quality from the index or to be indexed in Web of Science or Scopus. This is not quality. This is an indicator perhaps of visibility or other kind of indicator. But quality is peer review, solid peer review processes, and there are other organizations that can certify that. So this is a big myth, mainly imposed or promoted by commercial publishers because it is good for their businesses, but this is not true.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just kind of thinking about, I see the question in front of myself, what solution presented today could be relevant. I think that you should take the experience presented and find what is relevant for you and your use cases. I mean, I would definitely separate technical solution from the organizational ones. Whatever tool you select, you will find some challenges. On the other hand, you have to be sure how you're going to organize your platform or whatever it is. And with our experience with a set of services, I would say there is a tool for each and every need. When it comes to institutional repository, the place where you keep the digital things of the company, of the organization, of the faculty, that's one thing that you would keep doctoral thesis or patents or whatever you would keep there. On the other hand, the other platform like HRČAK actually deal with the other system, with the other idea, with the other concept of publishing things. So I would not essentially mix and wouldn't try to find a tool that would resolve all the use cases. So there is no universal tool, there is no universal hammer. Sometimes you need a different tool. And I think from SciELO, we actually see that there is a and B and C. There are some versions. Okay, we have other aspects in which we have a different services with a different names, but it boils to my understanding to the same thing, that there is no universal tool that covers everything. Especially because the use cases, the processes are different. There is a different process behind the open access journal and behind the, I don't know, doctoral thesis or qualification thesis of for a student at the university. At the same time, you want both to be accessible in the open access. You want both to be there, to be harvested or evaluated by some AI systems or whatever. So we want both to be coupled and metadata interoperable with the surrounding systems. But you know, you can't put them all into one platform. My humble opinion. They are not digitally same object.
Yes, Abel?
I agree with Miroslav totally. And we had the unfortunate, frustrated experience with an initiative from UNESCO to establish an alliance of open access platforms with Redalyc, Open Science, SciELO, AJOL, and SciELO. Because as Miroslav said, you have very different priorities, historical, etc. In the case of SciELO, for example, as I said, networking is a critical way to manage what we call asymmetries, you know, or different priorities. But I would say that we need, in terms of the open access platforms, define very well the licenses, okay? So CC BY or whatever is very important. And as much as possible to create APIs or availability. So the data is fully open. And in terms of the open access, as it is being happened, to adopt JETs. So with a license, JETs, and an API, I think that we have a world of, let's say, very, very interoperable and good infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Okay, I don't see any other questions posted on the on the chat. I was, if I may, I know that we stressed this time quite much already. One question to Ritsuko. When I was listening to your presentation, I noticed that you put much effort into both accommodating individual requirements of each and every journal, and also on let's say community building. You were mentioning the annual events, and you put much effort into sharing knowledge with journals. Could you maybe expand a bit more on those experiences? What are the particular needs or challenges that you meet in these areas?
Yes, as I presented, there are so many publishers, academic society of Japan, and at this stage we let societies make decisions on their journals and how to publish their journals. And so the role of the JSC is to support their publishing and not to play the principal role at the publishing. Then, so just to do on our side is to provide the latest information or latest trend with publishers, and the decisions are made by the societies. Then that's the because it fits in the Japanese culture, and so since the J stage started in 1999, we have been providing the universal services to all journals. Several years ago, we changed the policies some and decided to work with societies more actively. For example, we got some pilot users to start our journal consulting services. So we started the JC there with a small number of societies as a pilot. So I think that our attitude to the societies can be or our services are going in the same way as SciELO is doing.
Thank you very much. I very much regret that we have to wrap up now. We are quite past the scheduled time. While there is a lot of things that I will still like to discuss, and it's been very inspiring to listen to all of you, and even more than because I've seen a lot of similarities as well as a lot of different approaches in various areas when I was thinking about how we deal with things and what are our experiences. I very much hope that we remain in touch after this panel and that we could arrange some other meetings and create some cooperation. Well, now, again, thank you very much. That was really very nice of you, and we are very honored that you accepted our invitation and that you contributed so much to the conference. I hope to meet you again soon. And at the same time, we are finishing our conference. Well, the new platform of the Polish Libraries of Science is now officially launched. So, our project is not finished yet. We are still working on polishing the details. Okay, thank you, and bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you.